straight into the roof of the net. Nice one. Straight down the middle. So a good performance from both.
Hello and welcome to Firstpost. I'm Rupha Ramani. Let's get started. On the show today, the Indian cricket men's team have just wrapped up a horrific series against New Zealand and at home, losing the series 3-0, a whitewash for only the second time in the history of Indian cricket at home. It has opened up a can of worms with the head coach Gautam Gambhir and senior members Captain Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli coming under fire. Will there be harsh repercussions of this ahead of India's tour to Australia? I'll tell you more on that. American athletes and their politics are all intertwined with the US presidential elections all heating up. Who are supporting which candidate? And how is the sporting culture so very different from all across the world? And Max Verstappen pulls off a miracle win at the Brazilian Grand Prix, turning the tables on what now looks like a minor slump in his quest for another driver's title. What were the challenges and how did he manage to fight it all out? I'll tell you that, but first, let's take a look at the headlines in Sports 360. Starting with cricket, Australia win a thrilling ODI match against Pakistan at the Melbourne Cricket Ground in a low-scoring affair. Mitchell Starc restricted Pakistan to 203 in response. The Aussies won the match by just 2 wickets, despite being 8 down for 185. Captain Pat Cummins ensured Australia chased down the target. Over in football, Manchester United and Chelsea played out a 1-1 draw in the Premier League. Bruno Fernandes scored from the spot and gave United the lead in the second half. United's lead didn't stay that way for long, though, after Moises Caicedo equalised for Chelsea. In tennis, Alexander Zverev made light work of Ugo Humbert to secure the Paris Masters title. Zverev beat Humbert 6-2, 6-2 in straight sets. And with this win, he moves to second position in the ATP Tour rankings. The Paris Masters was Zverev's 23rd ATP title. And over at the season-ending WTA finals, world number 3 Coco Gauff made a winning start to her campaign. Gauff beat compatriot Jessica Pegula 6-3, 6-2. In another match, world number 2 Iga Swiatek escaped an opening round scare in her group. Despite losing the first set, Swiatek came back to win 4-6, 7-5, 6-2. And we'll sum it up with news from MotoGP. Reports say the MotoGP season-ending finale has been moved out of Valencia and will be hosted in Barcelona instead. This after massive floods damaged the racing track in Valencia. An official announcement regarding the 17th November event is yet to be made. The Indian men's cricket team has suffered the most humiliating loss in Test cricket. A few facts that's shocking to any Indian cricket fan. This is the first time ever that India has lost all 3 matches in a home series. And this is the first time in a 90-year-long cricketing history that the men's Indian team have suffered a whitewash in a series at home. These are statistics that can shake the foundation that many of stalwarts in Indian cricket set up. Sources say BCCI is feeling the pressure, and 3 men in particular at the helm of affairs with that Indian dressing room are facing the heat for this unexpected defeat. One is, of course, Captain Rohit Sharma, man out of form, and India's best batter Virat Kohli, and the new coach Gautam Gambhir, who suddenly has one of his biggest challenges in front of him. Now, there are going to be closed room discussions and talks before India head to Australia for their next series. Rohit Sharma probably made quite a few miscalculations there, and he admitted to the same. Now, he's an endearing captain who didn't want to mince words, but his innocent words aimed and just to elicit a laugh or a smile only backfired. He went from this statement.
Clearly a misjudgment of the pitch. I did not read the pitch well enough, and we sit in this situation. Though in 365 days you will make 2 or 3 bad calls. That is absolutely fine, I guess.
This was at the start of the series, and then he went on to make this statement.
There wasn't much grass on the pitch either. We thought it would be much flatter than it turned out to be. It was a misjudgment from my part and I couldn't read the pitch well.
Many fingers have been raised at Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli in particular, who are at the last stages of their career. The fans have been ruthless, of course. Take a look. After that 2-0 loss, you felt that India could somehow turn things around in Mumbai. I'm just looking back a bit here. The venue for the third test between the two countries, they did expect some Indian turnaround there, and it did turn, yes, horribly wrong on the pitch. A rank turner is what India requested, and it was served. And India's purpose of dismissing the Kiwi batters, yes, came true, but the Indian batters couldn't really match up to this. They struggled, and it was there for everyone to see. The only hopes came from the youngsters, and a bunch of those, just a handful. Yashasvi Jaiswal really proved his mettle against spin. Shubman Gill contributed, so too Washington Sundar, the late addition in that series that India made. Rishabh Pant played his part, and there were a few eyebrows that were raised over his dismissal in that third test in Mumbai. It could have changed the course of the match. Yes, you'd think that in hindsight, probably even the result, but it would be foolish to speculate along those lines. But these things do have a ripple effect. Speaking of ripple effects, New Zealand ensured that they did their prep thoroughly. Can you imagine this to be the same side that was thrashed 2-0 by Sri Lanka just before they headed over to India for the series? Tom Latham, the captain here, took over from Tim Southee, and two youngsters with Indian origins showed India a thing or two about how things need to be done in these conditions. One was, of course, the batter Rachin Ravindra. In that first test, he was elegant and pretty much essayed a key knock that really tilted the balance in his team's favour. Next up, Ajaz Patel, Mumbai-born New Zealander, the same Patel who became the third bowler and only the third to take 10 wickets in an innings in Test cricket just last year. India managed to shut New Zealand out that time, but of course Ajaz Patel ensured he did not slip up this time around, making certain of a New Zealand win, and a very memorable one at that, making Rohit Sharma admit this was not according to plan.
Losing a series, losing a test match is never easy, but something that is not easily digested. We didn't play our best cricket. New Zealand played better than us throughout the series. There were lots of mistakes that we made throughout the series, and we have to accept it.
India were given a masterclass in the art that India thinks boasts of themselves. A masterclass in spin, how to play spin and how to spin the opposition out too, by a New Zealander with Indian roots. But this has been a bit of a rude awakening for India, because the calculations to making it to a third consecutive appearance in the World Test Championship final is getting very much more complicated. Here's how that points table looks. It's all really bunched up now because of this India loss. Australia has gone up ahead of India. Head coach Gautam Gambhir wouldn't have dreamed of experiencing this sort of a slump this early in his stint. The Aussies have the most number of games left too. When you look at that column, which tells you how many matches all these teams, these are the contenders that you're seeing on your screen, all of these teams heading up to that World Test Championship, the most number of games left is under Australia, giving them the best chance of making it to that WTC final. Sri Lanka, the new and improved side under Sanath Jayasuriya, are snapping at the heels of India. They have the opportunity to do something incredible here if and only if they stand up to Australia. That's the matches coming up, and South Africa. New Zealand and South Africa will fancy their chances, particularly South Africa, with New Zealand coming up against a hurting England side. This battle for the top two spots is going to get intense, and India has slipped up on areas that will only get more exposed when they make that trip to Australia later this month. Will they be able to come up with some plan to avoid the kind of embarrassment that they faced at home against a team that has never lost to that India has never lost to in more than a decade is what we'll have to really look at and see. Max Verstappen is inching closer to the driver's title if there were any doubts that many might have had owing to his slump over the last few races. The Brazilian Grand Prix rectified all of that, shutting all critics and voices down. A dominant display in the most unexpected circumstances saw Verstappen increase the gap between him and second-placed Lando Norris in the driver's standings. Even the tricky weather in Brazil and his starting position at the grid did not stop Verstappen from turning things around and winning his first race since June this season. This time, Verstappen didn't need any ugly tactics or rough racing. The Dutchman overcame the horrors of the past 1 month to inch closer to a fourth successive driver's title. Here's how it all happened and how Verstappen turned his fortunes around. Take a look.
A rainy circuit in Sao Paulo made the Brazilian Grand Prix an exciting affair for the driver's title. A wet and chaotic race affected by crashes, safety car interventions and long stoppages even before the halfway mark saw a champion rise from what now feels like a minor slump. From the horrors of the last few weeks to arguably winning the best race of his career, Red Bull's Max Verstappen won his 8th Grand Prix title of the season. This despite starting 17th on the grid. And the Dutchman did not just win the race, but he secured it in some style. With almost a 20-second advantage over second-placed Alpine's Esteban Ocon, Verstappen gave it back to all his critics. Because before the Brazilian Grand Prix, Verstappen was nowhere near his best. In just the last race, the Red Bull driver was penalized twice at the Mexican Grand Prix. And despite finishing third at the US GP, he was accused of ugly tactics by McLaren and Lando Norris. At the race prior to that, the Singapore Grand Prix, Verstappen was asked to do community service for foul language being used at a press conference. What made it worse was that his failure to win a race or finish on the podium almost impacted Red Bull's chances of maintaining the lead in the constructors' standings. The only title is the Drivers' Championship, because before the race, Verstappen still had a 47-point advantage over McLaren's Lando Norris. All he needed was the right headspace to maintain that lead. But his headspace took a major toll after he was pushed back even before the race started. Verstappen was set to start in the 12th place on the grid, which is bad enough. And that position became 17th due to an engine penalty, with Red Bull guilty of breaching FIA's rules. And to make matters worse, McLaren's Lando Norris started number 1 on the grid. Reasons enough for Verstappen to not expect anything from the race, the driver's title slipping away. But it took Verstappen's champion mindset to come out on top. He passed 6 cars on lap 1, was racing at the 10th position in the second lap and made the hard grind through the rest of the field to take the lead. And once Verstappen was in a commanding position, no one could stop him, making Verstappen's mood go from this to this.
I don't even know where to start, because my emotions today have been from almost trying to destroy the garage to winning the race. But I mean unbelievable, to win here from so far back on the grid.
With 3 more races to go, the driver's title is very much in Verstappen's grasp. With a 62-point advantage over Lando Norris, all he needs to do is dig deep and draw from his champion mindset. Because all of a sudden, it feels like Verstappen has got wings, and it will take something to clip his wings off.
The United States of America eagerly awaits for their new president. The battle between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump intensifies even as voters gear up to elect the leader of the world's second-largest democracy. Now, while election fever has gripped the entire USA, much like the country, the Trump versus Harris debate has divided America's sporting fraternity as well. The biggest star to endorse one of the presidential candidates is NBA legend and LA Lakers forward LeBron James, who's backing Democrat Kamala Harris.
What are we even talking about here? When I think about my kids and my family and how they will grow up, the choice is clear to me. Vote Kamala Harris.
Now, LeBron James' comments, of course, do not come as a shocker because as much as the LA Lakers star has backed Democrats in the past, including Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden, LeBron has a long-standing feud with Harris's rival, Donald Trump. It, of course, all started when Donald Trump, in his previous tenure, criticized NFL players for taking the knee during the U.S. national anthem. That was to show their protest against racism. The comments didn't sit too well with LeBron, and who even asked voters to head to the polls and questioned why Trump was at the head of affairs in the first place. And if this instance wasn't enough, Donald Trump uninviting basketball legend Steph Curry and Golden State Warriors team from visiting the White House back in 2017 after their NBA championship had angered LeBron even more, who called Trump this. It's no surprise that Golden State Warriors star Steph Curry too is backing Kamala Harris this election.
And that unity on and off the court reminded us all that together we can do all things and continue to inspire the world. That's why I believe that Kamala, as president, could bring that unity back and continue to move our country forward. This is about preserving hope and belief in our country.
And it isn't just LeBron James and Steph Curry who are backing Kamala Harris for president. Former stars like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Magic Johnson are also rooting for her. Over in the women's basketball, WNBA's rising star Caitlin Clark may not have openly come out backing Harris, but she still gave a hint to her political allegiance. The WNBA Rookie of the Year liked one of the endorsement posts from American singer Taylor Swift, giving us quite the indication of who she will be backing this time. One of the reasons why the basketball fraternity in particular is backing Harris is because of what happened just some months ago. Not too long time back, Trump was under fire when NBA side Miami Heat defended the Haitian community. This after Donald Trump accused the Haitians of eating dogs, which led to the community facing hate from all over. Trump was cornered by Miami Heat when they defended the Haitians, but Trump seems to have found supporters in other disciplines. The NFL world seems to be backing Donald Trump to win the election. NFL's backing isn't just restricted to social media, though. San Francisco 49ers player Nick Bosa wore a MAGA hat after his side's match against Dallas Cowboy. MAGA, a term which means Make America Great Again, is a phrase used by Donald Trump in his presidential campaign. So clearly, the players are using every medium possible to show their support to Donald Trump. Over at the UFC, CEO Dana White has been a long-time Trump supporter who backed the former president in 2016 and 2020, even calling the Republican resilient.
You take any of the greatest fighters of all time, Trump is number one. The most resilient human being that I've ever met in my life. He could be doing a million other things, but is running for president because he loves the United States.
But this is what separates USA's political and sporting culture from that of the rest of the world. Sports has often functioned with the idea of keeping politics away from it, which is the case in most parts all over the world. Athletes do not openly back political parties or ideologies during elections particularly. They are sworn to silence. And even when they do come out and say something, they are criticized for their actions and for their gestures, like French football captain and Real Madrid star Kylian Mbappe, who found himself on the receiving end of criticism when he asked young French citizens to vote against extremists. Mbappe was heavily criticized by French far-right political party National Rally, who even asked Mbappe to focus on sports and stay away from politics. But unlike Europe, athletes speaking about politics is quite common in America. It isn't just the elections. In the past, American athletes have voiced their opinion on some strong political matters as well. Boxing legend and American sensation Muhammad Ali was vocal about America's war in Vietnam back in 1967. Ali was asked to fight the war, but he of course refused to be drafted into the US military. He called the war an act of genocide. In addition to Ali, American sprinter Jesse Owens voiced his opinion about the racial discrimination American athletes of color had to endure in the 1930s. He of course started the movement of taking a stance against racism. And while these gestures were for fight against discrimination and war, the American sporting fraternity has since then continued to speak about political matters, which is why the heavy endorsements for both Kamala Harris and Donald Trump proves how invested athletes are and rightfully should be in deciding who the future president of their country should be. Of course, and given the fan following and the kind of social media presence these athletes have, it's bound to leave an impact on the elections, because if these celebrities, superstars in their right, are endorsing presidential candidates, they are influencing voters and voting patterns. These stars are role models in the country, which may as well end up playing a bit of a role in deciding which way this election might swing. Time for last serve. Barcelona's Ballon d'Or winner Aitana Bonmati showed off her second Ballon d'Or title, getting shutterbugs all excited as she posed alongside the best club trophy as well. Take a look. One of the youngest role models all over Spain to look up to. But that wraps it up here on First Sports. I'll of course see you again tomorrow. Till then, do take care.